Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Brad.
Hello.
All right, guys, we're back. Plenty to talk about this week. We got not one, but two clips, both of them dealing with Ted Cruz for some fucking reason.
Yeah, one of them is laugh out loud funny. The other one, not as much.
No, the other one makes me really, really angry. Look, guys, I'm trying. I'm trying to, like, Brad has he has stated that he is he's doubling down on cynicism this year, which feels fair to me. It's not uncalled for, honestly. I am not trying to see the brighter side. I'm just trying. I'm just trying to survive. That is my goal for the year.
As are we all, really.
Yeah.
As is the Republic.
I for people who have, as I was telling Brad offline, for those of you who have seen Don't Look Up, I recommend it. I'm Leonardo DiCaprio's character. I'm just slowly trying to keep it together until my massive blow up on live television, like where I scream, "We're all gonna fucking die!" Like
I have to tell you. So I just finished a book, called "The Storm Before the Storm," which is by Mike Duncan, which is about basically everything that like precipitated the fall of the Roman Republic and then Empire, essentially, and man. Just a lot of real fucking pertinent allegories to many of the things that we're dealing with today.
Right.
It's really cool that people just, look at like one part of that history and they're like, Caesar, like he ruled with an iron fist and then got murdered. And then Augustus was cool, I guess. And it's like, wow, like there's a whole lot of stuff that happened for hundreds of years before then that you should really pay attention to, lest we repeat history.
Yeah. And by the way, we're definitely going to. We're definitely going to. We're all going to fucking die. So let's jump right into it. Joe Biden comes out for reforming the filibuster rules to get voting rights passed. This is the first time he's really stepping full into this. Obviously, Democrats have been pushing for this since he got elected, or since his term started. And he's kind of been like, hey, let's try to work it out. Let's try to work it out. Because he's a creature of the Senate, right? So it makes sense that he would be kind of the last person to come out and be like, we need to change these rules of the Senate. It makes sense. I know people wanted him to do this for a long time, and so did I. I'm not gonna pretend that I didn't, but I'm not shocked by it. By the time
I feel like you could have made a stronger push for this, before states were submitting their very gerrymandered maps. Agreed. That, will be in place for the next 10 years, potentially.
Like, I would have gone, I don't know, 6-9 months ago, but, like, that's just me.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
the North Carolina's state Supreme Court just upheld a map that gives Republicans 78% of the districts in that state, despite Trump winning it by only getting 49.6% of the vote in there. So, that's cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And Maryland is, like, still trying to decide whether they want to do like an 8-0 run. I'm like, do it.
Yes. Get Andy Harris the fuck out of there. Stop fighting fucking fire with rocks that are small.
It might work. No. Yeah. No, go full. Look, if they're gonna corrupt the system, the only way to fight back is to corrupt it to the point where everyone goes, all right. This is unfair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is unfair.
Meanwhile, fucking dipshit, Dan Crenshaw's out here like talking about how Democrats want to, they want to show you how fascist they are with these voting rights laws. And I'm like, someone on Twitter said his district looked like the fucked up version of the T1000 where it's like split in half and like hanging half over shit just to make sure. And it really does. It really does.
Like just so that asshole can get into power. Right.
Yeah, if you've ever seen Dan Crenshaw's congressional district, it is a sight to see. It is a sight to see, I will tell you.
Amazing.
So it's almost as bad as Andy Harris's congressional district, quite frankly, in Maryland, which literally is in Towson and then like goes up and then around the Maryland, the Maryland Peninsula and down the Eastern Shore.
Yeah, of course.
It's ridiculous.
And the thing is, Democrats who are worth their salt, in my opinion, would tell you that this is bullshit and it needs to change.
Yeah.
We are people on the left side. I don't know. I think we're filthy centrists now. Like, it's kind of weird.
That's what the kids are telling us.
That's what they say, because living in reality makes you a centrist. But like, yeah, I don't think gerrymandering should exist. I live in a state that is incredibly gerrymandered for Democrats. Yeah. Get rid of it. But I also
Maryland could without gerrymandering could very conceivably become like a 5-3 Democratic state. Like, there is a lot of Republican voters that live in the state of Maryland that don't have representation because their state is gerrymandered to shit.
Yeah, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Howard County, and
PG,
and what's the super ritzy county by DC?
Montgomery County.
Montgomery County. That's it.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. Those are the big blue parts. Like the rest of it feels like Texas, motherfucker. Like, you driven around Maryland? Get the fuck out of here. We keep it as like, that's how blue these areas are. We keep the state blue as fuck, but the rest of the state is ruby red, dude. Like, it is. Wacomico County, ain't no black people there. Get out of here. No.
So out there in fucking Appalachia, right on the border of West Virginia. Like, yeah, that's gonna be red as shit. So.
Yeah, like, nah, knock it off. So yeah, Biden comes out for it. Look, I mean, I don't have much to say, but like, welcome to the fight. So that's cool.
His speech was good. Like, he was pretty forceful. Like, when Republicans are complaining about him dialing up the rhetoric, that it was probably a good speech.
Yeah, it's not fair to use the bully pulpit. Like, no, that's what it's there for. Like that. Like,
yeah, literally is.
Yeah, you beat your chest, you smash your hand on the pulpit, you say what you got to say. Like, that's fine. Here's my thing. Joe Manchin comes out right before the speech and was like, nah, fuck the Voting Rights Act. Fuck all of you. Basically, right? And was like, in order for voting rights to pass, it's going to need to pass with 67 votes.
Oh, no, that's not what he said. What he said was he thinks that any rule changes in the Senate need to have 67
Yes,
votes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Correct.
So in Joe Manchin's twisted logic that he's putting forth, you need more votes to change the rules so that you can exclude the people who aren't voting for the thing that you want, that you don't need that many votes to get.
Why would I ask you to then exclude you? Like, that doesn't. Hey, would you like to give me the power to?
Can you exclude yourself, please, so that we can pass this thing?
Like,
by all means, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I want less power. Yeah. So Manchin comes in. He basically puts a kibosh on the whole thing. And I see folks online and talking about this, and the thing I've realized, and it just like, it really made me mad this week is that nobody wants to talk. Well, let me rephrase it. Not nobody. Very few people want to talk about what the reality of this situation is. Mm-hmm. Voting rights will not get passed. This is not Joe Biden's fault. This is a fault of Joe Manchin. I know people like to get mad at Joe Manchin, but they get mad at Joe Manchin and then they suddenly shift blame immediately because they're like, well, fuck that guy, but Joe Biden should have done more. What could Joe Biden have done?
So you're gonna blame Joe Manchin. That's interesting. I don't blame Joe Manchin personally.
Why not? Joe Manchin, Chris and I
blame the Democratic voters in certain purple states that could have possibly gotten us 2 or 3 more senators, so that this would be.
Well, okay, that's fair. I mean that's yes, I would agree, right? But the bigger part to that is the response is the most fucked up, which is, if they don't pass Voting Rights Act, then I'm not going to vote. Thus, giving Republicans more seats to do more damage and stop you from doing the thing that you want to be done.
I believe they call that a self-fulfilling prophecy, Jay.
Like, dear knows, planning on cutting you off to spite my dumb face. Like, it is, to me, the most irritating thing in modern politics is people's inability to understand that that their actions actually matter, one, mm-hmm. and that they blame the wrong party, like, and I don't mean like political party, I mean like person, right? The wrong party when it's time to like deal with these issues. You cannot fix the voting rights issue. You cannot fix gerrymandering. You cannot do anything unless you get more Democrats in that are more in line with the things that you want. You want to get this shit done? Don't turn off. Like, I hate to make this like a weird, like rousing, like let's fight speech because I'm too fucking tired for that shit. I'm tired of saying it. I'll save it for the midterms. But you don't get to turn off. You don't get to turn off. Like,
I also feel like
a
there's
constant
like 50.
fight. Keep moving forward.
I also feel like there's 50 Republicans that could perhaps deserve some blame for refusing to vote on something that's popular with like 70% of Americans and a fair amount of their constituents as well, I would imagine.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. Like, I see all of these articles, like, well, you know, Democrats aren't doing enough to convince people and make them understand that the voting rights is important. I'm like, one, bullshit. Like, that doesn't make sense. Two, well, what could they do to move Joe Manchin? You cannot force an adult to do something they don't want to do when you have no leverage over them. I don't understand why people don't understand that. Well, like, it's crazy to me.
It really does annoy me that the default position of Republicans in the eyes of the media and just really the public in general is allowed to be do nothing. Like, they're allowed to not do anything.
Yeah,
like when Democrats were trying to stop, like, you know, the ACA from being repealed and stuff like that, they were obstructing the agenda of the Republicans, whereas the Republicans are just doing what people expect them to do, which, you know, when you have done nothing for 40 years, is a fair assessment to have cast at you.
Right.
But that shouldn't be allowed to be accepted. Like I said, I think what we said last week holds true. If you have a friend who is yelling at Joe Biden for not passing voting rights, ask them to point to the piece of legislation that has passed through Congress that Joe Biden has vetoed so far in his presidency. Because spoilers,
there isn't one.
There is none.
Yeah.
So,
and like it, like understanding.
And if you want, and sorry to interrupt you, if you want Joe Biden to somehow sign an edict, an EO that somehow grants this, then congratulations, you want a dictator. Like that's what you want. And plus, that would not stand judicial scrutiny anyway.
It would not. It would get destroyed immediately by this Supreme Court. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, not.
They'd put out an injunction to prevent it from taking place in the first place until it landed in front of them, and then they would vote it down. Probably 9-0, honestly, because I don't think even the liberal justices would be along for the president just declaring via fiat that I'm changing the voting rights law, or changing the voting rules.
I will never forget having a conversation with somebody on Twitter, and I think you were a part of this conversation. It was like a liberal dude. I was like, dude, you want a dictator? He was like, yeah, I want a liberal dictator. You're right. And I was like, block.
He literally said literally said he wants he wanted like a left version of Trump. I was like, that's not supposed to be the end goal here, guys.
No, like that's how
work that way.
Like, you're supposed to be like, the reason why we vote for Democrats over Republicans is very simple. Look, I'm a movie guy, Brett. You're a movie guy. You like action movies. I like action movies. We even have a show about it. There's a small film. Maybe some people have heard of it. I don't know. It's called Speed. Okay. Starring a young upstart. I don't know if he's going to be famous or not.
He's got a bright future ahead of him.
This fucking guy. But there is a moment in the movie, early on in the movie, where it's like, you know, pop quiz hotshot. Like, what are you going to do? I got a hostage. Like, I'm willing to shoot the hostage. You're not willing to shoot the hostage. We vote for Democrats because they are not willing to shoot the hostage. Now, in that scenario, the hero was like, hey, that's my buddy. I'm going to shoot the hostage, right? Like, I'm going to be all right. Right? Shoot him in the leg. But the reality is, Republicans are willing to shoot the hostage. We don't, like, as people on the left or as Democrats or you know, center left people, however you want to market yourself. The reason you support Democrats can't be the same like, Republicans fight in a very dirty way, which is, we'll blow up everyone, we will kill the hostage, we don't give a shit if we don't get what we want. You don't like those tactics because they are corrupt, they're inhumane, they don't take, actual people into consideration, they don't help anybody. It's just about a power grab. When you say that you want Democrats to act like Republicans, I would offer that you don't really understand how Republicans work, or that you aren't really that liberal. Like you're not. And I see a lot of people who used to be conservative, who are now liberal, make those very arguments. Like, they need to fight like Republicans. But if they fought like Republicans, you wouldn't like them because their whole point is that they have to take into consideration human beings. That's the problem. And Republicans have figured out that fucking play. So they know that if I just grab the hostage and put a fucking gun to your head or a gun to their head, Democrats will fold. Oh, you want voting rights to help people? Well, how about we give you nothing? Oh, did you want something? Well, how about we just shoot the hostage of Roe versus Wade, or shoot the like pick something that you care about. They will just put it up for bid and they'll blow its fucking head off, right? Meanwhile, Democrats are like, hey, I'm trying to help people. Like, hey, we don't always get it right? Like, I'm not arguing that they do. They get a lot of shit wrong. But at the end of the day, they're always in the business of trying to improve people's lives. They may fail on that miserably sometimes, no doubt, because there's some corporate conservative asshole Democrats. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they're not. There's a lot of them. But you can't throw people like John Ossoff or AOC in the squad. You can't throw them into the same, bucket as, Joe Lieberman, for instance, right? You can't. So the problem is when you make the arguments that you want the same tactics from Democrats, I would argue that you don't understand why those tactics work for Republicans. It is simple. They don't give a shit, and they pay, much like Joe Manchin in voting rights, they don't ever pay a price for it. Joe Manchin is set up perfectly right now. He doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do. What are you going to do? Oh, you mad at him? Okay, so what? And then it's like, we're going to vote you out when you come up for term. Not this time, next time. All right, I'm old. Retirement. Who gives a shit? Bounce, and I'll get a fucking big, expensive paying job in the coal industry. If you understand what those realities are, getting mad is is pointless. It's pointless. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you have to like it, but it's pointless. It's pointless to be yelling at him and yelling at Joe Biden. We're stuck between a rock and a hard place. We just are.
And again, doing nothing is the brand of conservatism. I was thinking about this today. Think of every landmark social policy that's been passed in American history over the last 100 years. Okay? I can name one that was headed up by a Republican presidential administration, still a Democratic Congress, by the way, but had a Republican Democratic administration, or a presidential administration, and that was the interstate highway system. That's the one. Everything else was pushed forward by Democrats.
I mean, you can literally make an argument. You can make an argument for No Child Left Behind. I wouldn't. I'm just saying you could make.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
It's not a very good one.
That landmark, social policy. I don't. I'm thinking of Social Security and Medicare and the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and the ACA and things of that.
No, Republicans don't. I mean, we've talked about this. Republicans stopped hiring people to write policy. They just hired marketing people. They market their bad faith politics because bad faith is all they have left. Mm-hmm. That's it. And it works. I wish it didn't. I wish people were smarter, but it does work. Bad faith works. So
again, like I said, the Romans had a lot of things wrong, and this is also wrong. But back in the day when they had a senator that was blocking, important legislation that they wanted to get passed, they would just round up a mob and beat the shit out of them. I feel like that's our last resort for Joe Manchin. We're going to go Roman on your ass.
Yeah. It's
and we're going to go
come and just push your boat over.
Brakes off you.
No, just push his boat over. 100 Democrats just dump his tugboat right into the Anacostia River. I'm here for that. All right, let's make it an outing, everybody. 9 p.m. at Joe's Boat.
Look for TNT Studios. Look forward meetup. Let's go
Capsize Joe Manchin's boat. Fuck that guy. I don't know. That sounds like a pretty good idea. Yeah. So there's an article Brad and I found right before we started this show today, which is from the brilliant folks over at the New York Post. I believe, as comedian John Mulaney says, the New York Post is like reading the news from someone who heard about the news and just is like trying to jot down what they heard. It's like, as a rumor, they were just like,
I feel like you could have posited a John Mulaney impersonation in there.
No, I don't do it. I don't do a good John Mulaney.
It's like reading the news from someone who heard the news and just tried to jot it down.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. I love John Mulaney. I think that dude is hilarious. This article is hilarious. See if you can catch the bullshit. Shouldn't take long.
I mean, you said New York Post, so already we're
already there.
Against it.
You're already in the mindset. The title alone. This is an editorial. I love how it's just by Post editorial board. They didn't assign it to one douchebag.
Who's on the Post editorial board is my question.
Dude, I do not
like is it like fucking Vinny who owns the pizza shop down the street, and fucking Mario and this other is that who's on the Post board?
It should be. It is. It definitely is. Joe Biden's disgraceful lies on the filibuster and Dems power grab over U.S. voting laws. And they show, of course, this picture of Joe Biden like really giving it to him, right? Joe Biden hasn't moved that fast. This is the only time he's like done anything that like angry in like 3 years, maybe 7 years. They caught the one image. In a disgraceful performance Tuesday. Gee, tell me how you really feel. President Joe Biden went down to Georgia to offer a disgraceful pack of lies about the filibuster and the Democrats' so-called voting rights bill. I feel like that's like a devil went down to Georgia
it is.
Thing, and that's I don't care for that. Like I just don't care for that. Like just shut up. You're supposed to be they're not real news. Who am I kidding?
Yeah, but it's like you're giving them way too much credit.
Yeah, infotainment.
Yeah.
The filibuster rules basically let 41 senators block most legislation. Perhaps Biden's most clever fib by claiming he only wants a one-time exception for the rule for the bills, which aim to, in parentheses, unconstitutionally federalize voting rules. Not unconstitutional at all. Like, to federalize voting rules, there are parts of the rules that are, in fact, already federalized. Like, I don't know why you're saying it as if federalize is an evil word. Like, he's not doing anything. Like, all right, whatever.
For example, we literally all vote on the same day.
Yeah. Yeah. How dare you, Brad?
Regardless of what state election laws you have, we're like, no, it's still got to happen on this second Tuesday or first Tuesday in November.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah, fucking federal government, man. Reaching into our pockets. This is a poorly written article, by the way. That's utter bull. Shocking news, right? Once Democrats carve out an exception for something they claim is of the utmost importance, they'll do it again for another necessary law, and Republicans will proceed to do the same for their top priority, say a bill to federalize abortion law. Okay, pause right there. That paragraph is grade A bullshit. Once Democrats carve out an exception for something that they claim is of utmost importance, they'll do it again for another necessary law. Making sure people can vote, pretty necessary, incidentally, right? There's nothing in H.R. 1 that is like wild. Also, it doesn't apply to just Democrats. It applies to everyone, right? Like, early voting, like, the ability to like same day registration, all of that still applies to Republicans too. I don't know why you're talking about it as if that's outsized, outsized influence to Democrats.
Yes, you do.
I mean, I do because
I'm gonna say you know exactly why they're talking about it that way.
Right, because Right, because they know that there are more. Basically, because they know that there are more of us than there are them. That's literally what it comes down to, right? Like they're like, no, you shouldn't have same day voting, like registration and voting. Why not? Because
that'll help your voters.
Yeah, like damn it, like I don't. Like, but you guys can do that. Yeah, I know, but like we only got like 7 old people left. Like we don't have a lot of people left, guys. They're all dying of COVID. We keep telling them to. Then the other party says, or they say, Republicans will proceed to do the same with their top priority, say a bill to federalize abortion law. One, they're literally proceeding with that now, and it's bullshit. So I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Number 2, like they're taking like a hypothetical thing that Democrats could do, and then they're taking a hypothetical thing Republicans could do. But the hypothetical thing that the Democrats or the thing that Democrats are trying to do is a very real thing. You can just focus on that. You don't have to create a hypothetical to then like rail against the fake thing, right? Meanwhile, you're like, well, Republicans might want to federalize abortion law. Okay, that's a hypothetical as well. Again, but it's also like actually happening. But they did change the filibuster rule. Like, why don't you talk about the thing that they actually did 3 years ago? Like, you don't have to speculate on a future thing with Republicans. They changed the fucking law. You could say, hey, Republicans actually did do this, so why is it wrong for Democrats to do this? Like, make that argument. Don't make an argument of, like, 2 wild hypotheticals. We don't have to do wild hypotheticals. Like, here's the thing that actually happened that Republicans did. This is how you push Republicanism and Republican conservative bullshit, by pretending that it's both sides are trying to do this. No, it's not both sides are trying to do this. One side already did. You already broke the rule. So why don't we just go ahead and break the rule fully?
Yeah. And I mentioned this to you before the show started. Like, there are some people that truly do want to keep the filibuster in place and do look at what the Republicans did with Supreme Court justices as somehow different than changing it to pass a law through.
Which is horseshit.
Like, people somehow see those two things differently. And while they have different aims, at the end of the day, you're just changing a procedure. Like, that's what you're ultimately doing at the end of the day. You're changing a procedure for a very specific thing. It's already been done in the past for budget laws, which they're allowed to do a couple times a year through budget reconciliation. And the Democrats did it when Republicans just refused to confirm any Supreme or any circuit court judges when Obama was president.
Yep.
Like, they've done it when they've needed to do it, because in the face of either great obstruction or just to keep, like, the reason that the budget carve out happened is because they didn't want, monetary fights to get caught up in partisan bickering, essentially.
Right. You got to keep
they wanted to make sure the country was running smoothly. I don't feel like that's a precedent that wouldn't also apply to voting rights. Like, we shouldn't want voting rights to get caught up in partisan bickering, because it's kind of essential to having a democracy is having strong voting rights laws.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would push back on that is, if you allow voting rights to pass, then how am I supposed to become a dictator? Like, I can't have these people voting. Like, get the fuck out of here, Brad.
And to all the people that are like, oh, well, when the Republicans, sweep, both chambers and the presidency and revert all this stuff, to that I say the same thing I did with the ACA. Let them try. See how that goes. I guarantee you that if you pass voting right laws to be much more widely accepted, it would be super popular. And if Republicans tried to roll that shit back, they would meet a wall of resistance.
Yes.
Much like they did with the ACA. Because eventually Republican voters would be like, oh man, getting to mail your ballot in is pretty cool. Having this 3-week window is pretty cool. Having them mail this to your house is pretty cool. It's really convenient. I like not having to stand in lines for, 3-4 hours. Like, this is pretty dope. All right, we're gonna take that away. Well, hang on a second. Like I kind of like taking it easy, chilling out.
Right. Like, dude, voting. We've been able to do this in a ton of states. Now, I do think that there has to be some safeguards put in place for mail-in voting in some of these red states because I don't fucking trust them. I'll be honest, I don't trust them. Like, oh, sorry, we didn't get any of these votes back from this particular county. Toss them all like crazy, right? I think there does need to be some real, like stipulations on like how this stuff is handled and everything else. But that being said, we can all work that shit out. A Republican in Montana should have it just as easy in voting as a Democrat in Georgia, as an independent in Florida, as, a Green Party person in California, so on and so forth. Like, there is no reason that process should feel any different for anybody. It shouldn't. Look, let's get real. Why are black people standing in line for 6, 7, 8 hours in Georgia every time there's an election? I live in a blue state. You live in the same state. How long? What's the longest you've ever waited to vote?
90 minutes.
90 minutes? Never been that long for me. Never been that long. Dude, 10 minutes.
And that's only because I went like at 6:30 in the evening.
Oh, okay. You went at like a peak time.
Day.
Yeah, I normally go in the morning. Like, seriously, 10, 15 minutes max. It was like where I used to live, it was 15 minutes because I would walk there. Right? Like, I would walk there. That took 6 or 7 minutes. And then I would walk in and vote
you know how long it took me? You know how long it took me in 2020? As long as it took me to fucking fill out my ballot here at home and then to take it to the drop box outside of the polling place.
Same thing I did, dude. It was a 5-minute drive to my local high school.
Oh, sorry. Shit in. Me and my wife's ballot because I had a filthy ballot harvester.
Oh, ballot harvesting! This guy carrying 2 envelopes. Holy shit! Are you okay?
Lock him up.
Brad admits to ballot harvesting live on air. What the fuck, dude? Like, dude, it's my wife's ballot. Like, we live in the same house. Don't worry. I filled out hers for her, right? Yeah, she was going to vote for Trump. Like, shut up. So yeah, it's just silly. But like getting back to the larger point here, you have to be able. I know it feels, to me, it's not defeatist. It's honest. The Voting Rights Act is not going to pass because of the situation that we're in. It simply isn't. So screaming and kicking and the gnashing of teeth and all this other stuff at the wrong people is a waste of your time and it's a waste of your energy. What you should be doing is, we didn't get it passed this time. We need to double down and make sure people get out to vote in the midterms so we can get enough fucking Democrats, if at all possible, to keep the Senate. And if at all possible, if we're really fucking lucky, gain numbers to make those 2 jackasses irrelevant. Right? That should be your goal. It shouldn't be to give up.
And honestly,
give up.
If you want to get something passed right now, too, I think Chris Hayes has the best point on this, and I think he cribbed this from someone on Twitter, and he attributed it. But at this point, like, if you want to pass Build Back Better, if you want to pass voting rights, I think you go to Joe Manchin and you'd be like, look, here you go. Here's a sheet of paper. You write the bill you'd vote for, and we'll pass it. That's what we're going to do. Oh, you want to pass voting rights with a bipartisan bent? You write a bill that's going to get 10 Republicans to be like, let's fucking go, and then we'll pass it. But you do it because we're tired of playing this fucking game. No, tell us what you would be willing to accept.
No, I think that's naive. Honestly, I think it's naive. I think it sounds good. I think it sounds really good. When they and I responded to Chris Hayes. He didn't write back. How dare him? What a dick, dude. You can come on the show. It's cool. Like it's cool, Chris. It's cool.
Or we'll go on yours.
Yeah, like right. Like we'll do a podcast exchange, right? Like we'll go on yours, you'll go on ours. Yeah, you'll help us, we'll help you. Right. It would be hilarious. Like Chris Hayes should do that. Like he's just like willing to come on someone else's like just like very small podcast. Like, hey guys, like it's me, Chris Hayes. Like what the fuck? Are you sure it's you?
I mean, he was slumming it with some fly-by-night podcaster named Ezra Klein this week. So clearly, he's willing to give handouts out to obscure podcasts.
New York Times Ezra Klein. I prefer
that guy.
I prefer the Ezra Klein show that was on Vox. Totally different show. Totally different. So I think it's a bit naive because look, and I use the example of Kristen Sinema. When they ask Kristen Sinema, like, hey, how much are you willing to spend for the infrastructure bill? when it was like $1.5 trillion. She's like, oh, that's too much money. 1.5 trillion is just too much money, or $2 trillion is too much money. They were like, cool. So what's your number then? And she was just like, I gotta go. And she just bounced. Because I don't think that they, like, I think they are well aware of their position, and they know what the perception of them is. So I think this idea of getting Joe Manchin to write Build Back Better, he'd just be like, no, that's not my job.
I mean, I don't think that it would
just fuck off. I don't think he would do anything
to do it. I don't think it would pressure him to do it, but I think it would firmly, hopefully, finally tell people or show people where the blame should lay. Like, if you're literally being like, hey, if you're going to hold this up from passing, then you have to decide what's in it because we need your vote. I don't want to do that. Oh. This is why we can't get it done, guys.
I mean, all right, if you're using it as a weapon to blame him, yeah, sure. Okay, but if you're using it like this will actually work,
no, I don't think it'll actually work. But like you said, like he can do it because he knows that the blowback is going to ultimately fall on Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's correct.
But I think if you want to try to salvage the situation, just have the blowback go to him. Let all the fucking progressives protest outside Joe Manchin's boat.
Again, we're meeting up next week. Hashtag capsize Joe Manchin's boat. So yeah, that's probably going to be the show title. Capsize Joe Manchin's boat. And
look, not with him in it. We're just trying to send a message. I'm not trying to murder Joe Manchin. Like, we're just trying.
I did not agree to that. Those terms. I'm kidding. Relax. I don't want anything to happen to Joe Manchin. That's fucked up. No. Relax. Just joking. No, but it's but to me, in all honesty, I don't know that you can get any of these things done. I don't know. And it pisses me off because Joe Manchin is just like gaslighting his own party, as you would say. Just like, I don't want to change the rules. Those have been the rules of the Senate for years. It's like
forever, he says.
Yeah, forever.
He says.
3 years ago was forever. I mean, look, maybe Joe Manchin's
not even 3 years ago. Like the filibuster, as it stands now, didn't exist until 1975.
Right. No, I'm just talking about the rules changes for the carve-out. It was 3 years ago. But yeah, it was like 1975. You're right. Like, where they were just like, let's come up with this idea. Like, that didn't exist. Like, George Washington wasn't like, hey, I have an idea for your so-called Senate over there. Like, here's a filibuster, and he didn't hand it to them on 2, stone tablets. Like, that's not how it worked. It was the 70s. People wearing bell bottoms and afros. Like, come on.
Like if James Madison were to see the filibuster today, like his reaction would be, "What the fuck is this? Like, what are you doing, idiots?
How do you get anything done?
Like, why would you do that?"
Shut up! They would call him a cuck and say that he's been corrupted by the liberals. And
that's right. Staunch Republican James Madison.
Yeah, that's right. You filthy centrist. Like, I'm James Madison. Like, I had an HBO show about. Oh no, that was John Adams. I was like, I had an HBO show about me. Played by what? Paul Giamatti. He's like really
Paul Giamatti. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's. Speaking of cuck-like behavior, Ted Cruz
has had a week. He has had a week.
What a week.
Yeah. We're stealing bits now.
Yeah, that's right.
John Lovett, if you want to be angry about it, we're more than happy to come on your show, or vice versa.
Right. Again, another exchange. Like, you come on here, we'll help you. We'll go on your show to help you. Right. You help us. So Ted Cruz made the mistake of referring to the terrorist during January 6th as, in fact, terrorist. And so he had.
Before you get further on, this is not the first time that Ted Cruz has referred to what happened on January 6th as a terrorist act. He's actually referred to it many, many times over the course of the year 2021.
Oh, is that right?
But for some reason, like, this particular instance caught the attention of folks on the right who were accusing him of selling out and being a cuck and all this other bullshit.
Good.
So he had to defend his honor.
Yeah. So he went on the Big Tuck. He went on Big Tuck show to defend what he said. Because he wasn't gonna break. He ain't gonna go down and like change his thoughts to please you. Ted Cruz is his own man. All right. So let's
It's game enough to come on tonight. We appreciate that. He joins us now. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. So I guess there are a lot of dumb people in the Congress. You're not one of them. I think you're smarter than I am. And you never use words carelessly. And yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally.
Pause for a sec. Okay. One, part of me kind of loves Tucker Carlson in this because he's not letting Ted Cruz skate. Yeah. Right? Like, he's like, yeah, I'm not buying it, dude. And look, to Tucker Carlson's credit, and he's right here, like, you're not dumb, yo. You used to push cases in front of the Supreme Court. Like, you ain't no fucking just Texas Rube. Like, you're not. You're not Louis Gohmert.
Like you said, Tucker Carlson's a piece of shit, but at the same time, it is pretty fun when it's friendly fire coming across them.
Oh, yeah. Like, come on, Tucker, give it to him. Come on. Who doesn't love that? But I do like that. The other thing I wanted to pause and say here is Tucker Carlson is also full of shit. This was not a terrorist attack. Do we need to like look up the very definition of what a terrorist is? They use violence to push a political agenda, which was to overturn a political election. If this happened in another country and a bunch of people raided City Hall or the Capitol or whatever of that government trying to overturn an election, American news media would refer to this as a terrorist attack. They absolutely would. Or at the very least, a fucking coup. At the very least. So, sure, you don't want to use terrorist attack, fine. It's a fucking coup. 6 on one hand, half a dozen on the other. But I just want to point that out. I'm enjoying Tucker Carlson giving Ted Cruz shit, but I also think Tucker Carlson is a large fucking turd. So there you go.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say. What I was referring to are the limited number of people who engaged in violent attacks against police officers. Now, I think you and I both agree that if you assault a police officer, you should go to jail. That's who I was talking about. And the reason the phrasing was sloppy is I have talked dozens, if not hundreds of times. I've drawn a distinction. I wasn't saying that the thousands of peaceful protesters supporting Donald Trump are somehow terrorists. I wasn't saying the millions of patriots across the country supporting President Trump are terrorists. Hilarious. And that's what a lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We have said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism on January 6th? Like, why'd you use that word?
Again, a ton of people have not been openly charged with this shit. Like, we don't have any charges yet. So to just assume that they won't be, well, I think it would be ridiculous if they're not. You can't just, absence of information doesn't equal other information. You just don't know things. Like, but he's doing the Fox News thing of like, you're just filling in blank space with conjecture. That's not reality. Like, again, that's like journalistically horseshit.
By the way, I do love, like it's not still like and anything can be taken out of context in a still image like this. Ted Cruz's face says to me, God, I know this is bullshit, but I still have to fucking sing for my supper.
Yep.
Because I got caught out. So please please, Mr. Goebbels, please do not fucking flog me in front of the Fuhrer, because I can't afford to not keep my power.
Yeah, that's basically it. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Playing into the other side's characterization that, as Joe Kent just explained, allows them to define an entire population as foreign combatants. And you know that. So why'd you do it?
So, Tucker, let me answer you directly. The reason I use that word, for a decade, I have referred to people who violently assault police officers as terrorists. I've done so over and over and over again. If you look at all the assaults we've seen across the country, I've called that terrorism over and over again. That being said, Tucker,
if you call that terrorism, then you also don't know what terrorism is. Like, what is that as an admission? Hey, if you assault a police officer, you're a terrorist. But terrorism has a very specific definition. It's about using violence and the threat of violence to push a political agenda. That's what they did on January 6th. If I punch a cop in the face right now, not that I'm saying that's like a thing I want to do, but if I punch a cop in the face right now, that is not for political reasons. I can guarantee you that's for personal reasons. For me, right? Like, you can't just say somebody who assaults a cop is like, I just refer to them as a terrorist. Well, that's an incorrect definition. So not only is he like a sniveling loser, he's also lying about what he thinks a terrorist is. Because again, Ted Cruz is not stupid. Ted Cruz is terrified of Tucker Carlson and the power that he wields.
I agree with you. It was a mistake to say that yesterday. And the reason is what you just said, which is we've now had a year of Democrats in the media twisting words and trying to say that all of us are terrorists, trying to say you're a terrorist, I'm a terrorist. And so, look,
No. They're specifically talking about the people on January 6th. They think that maybe Ted Cruz, you enabled that shit because you push for this, but they're not calling people terrorists just because they're on the right. That's horseshit.
Yeah. Now, we do think you're fascists, but, you know.
Yeah, that's a different
That's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
Ted, if you want to come on the show, we'll tell you why you're a fascist.
And look, we'll testify in front of Congress if you want to.
Look, you come on our show to help us. We'll go to Congress to help you. It's fine. It's not a big deal. We're willing to do the Look Forward Exchange program. It's fine. We're here to help.
Who assault cops. And I stand up and defend cops. And the reason I use that word is that's the word I've always used for people that violently attack cops. But in this context, I get why people were angry, because we've had a year of the corrupt corporate media and Democrats claiming anyone who objected to the election fraud. And by the way, remember what was happening during those protests?
Can I ask, hold on, you work in the I guess I just don't believe you. And
I'll leave it there. It's enough for me. I get it. Yeah, I don't believe you. Like, that's a perfect way to end that. I just don't believe you. Is Tucker Carlson that entertaining every night? Is that why people watch him?
Well, I mean, he does have a certain like clay-faced charisma to him, I suppose. if you're into that sort of like autocratic, fetishism, that particular brand of authoritarianism that he fucking loves to dine out on. So
Dr. Orban. Yeah, like, amazing. Like, dude, you are such a loser. You're such a loser, Ted. You're such a fucking loser that you have to be like, is it okay if I use the word terrorist? Like, dude, come on, man. Gain some balls.
But what that led to was Ted Cruz wanting to get some of his swagger back.
Oh,
so then he had to go running some bullshit.
The very next day, I believe, or 2 days later.
Literally the next day, yes.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of Teddy Westside talking about, during the hearing, talking to the head of the FBI. So here you go.
Return to the FBI. How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Ms. Sadburn, who is Ray Epps?
I'm aware of the individual, sir. I don't have the specific background to him.
Well, there are a lot of people who are understandably very concerned about Mr. Epps. On the night of January 5th, 2021, Epps wandered around the crowd that had gathered, and there's video out there of him chanting, "Tomorrow, we need to get into the Capitol, into the Capitol." This was strange behavior, so strange that the crowd began chanting, "Fed, Fed, 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 Fed." Ms. Sandburn, was Ray Epps a Fed?
Sir, I cannot answer that question.
The next day, on January 6th,
Okay.
Mr. Epps is seen whispering to a person, and January 6th, Mr. Epps is seen whispering to a person, and 5 seconds later, 5 seconds after he's whispering to a person, that same person begins to forcibly tear down the barricades.
So, okay. So his point here is that the FBI planted these people, planted these informants or what have you, or agents in the January 6th crowd, and they're the ones who are responsible for January 6th. Okay. If this guy that they're talking about is a known informant or whatever, okay. He's like chanting these things. Let me ask you a question. What do they think all the people who came to DC came there to do?
Peacefully protest, of course, Jay.
Is that what they thought?
What else would they have done?
Interesting.
Clearly.
Do you think that maybe since the FBI was given the heads up by a bunch of people that these dudes were coming to DC to tear shit up, that they had it would be a dereliction of duty if they didn't have informants and fucking spies in the crowd? Of course, dude. Are you kidding me? Of course they had them. And they are trying to find the people who are the most likely to do the dirt so that they can go after them and arrest them. No shit. However, there are two parts of this that bother me. One, any logical person knows that. And it is a completely reasonable thing. If the FBI wasn't there, I would be like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Right? Like that is a massive dereliction of duty, that with all the information that you were fed, you never sent any of your informants or spies to be in the crowd to fucking watch these guys, to see what they're doing, to figure out their tactics, figure out their leadership and stuff like that. By the way, we watch all of these movies, spy movies. Yeah, this is what we want our guys to do. This is what they should be doing, right? They should be working the crowds to figure out who the fuck these guys are. That's how, when all of them broke away, how do you think they picked all of these assholes up? You think it was just the assholes on Twitter being like, I saw a guy in a video? It's not. The guy's like, yeah, I was hanging out with John, Bill, Steve, all of these assholes the night before. I know exactly who they are. Yes.
Well, not only that, but like, it also undermined, like, so this Ray Epps dude that the right like focused in on for a day or two because it was convenient for them to do so. They did it because he's a cooperating witness with the January 6th Commission. Like Adam Kinzinger put like a long tweet thread out, like talking about Ray Epps specifically. He's like, it's fucking stupid that we have to do this, but Ted Cruz is a dishonest piece of shit and knows that he's full of shit. Right. So here's the deal with Ray Epps. Like he was just one in the crowd, and he was misguided, just like just like all these other fucking idiots were, and caused some bad shit to happen. And he cooperated with the investigation and helped us identify a lot of other folks because he was fucking there. That's it. End story.
Right. And look,
that's the deal.
So, okay. But here's the second part to this. And this is the part that I think a lot of people don't understand or don't know. I shouldn't say understand, but don't know. Mm-hmm. And Ted Cruz knows this. And this is the part about politics that makes me fucking crazy when it comes to Republicans. They are well aware of the limitations of their audience. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I mean they know how dumb their constituency is on a lot of shit. How ignorant they are. It's not even dumb, it's just ignorant. Ted Cruz is smart enough to know. Again, Ted Cruz argued in front of the Supreme Court. Ted Cruz knows that the FBI is not allowed to comment on investigations, real or fake. Any of it. Like that is their rule. That's why when James Comey did what he did, it was unfucking precedented, right? Mm-hmm. He's asking a question, a yes or no question. It's a dirty lawyer tactic because he knows that they can't answer it. So he knows that his group of folks, his supporters, will just fill in information. Oh, they're not saying they can't say either way. That means it definitely happened. No, they can't say either way because that's actually the procedure of the fucking department. What you're saying could be complete and utter bullshit, which I think it probably is. And if she could be honest, be like, nah, yo, that's not true. One, you wouldn't believe her if she said it, but their procedure is they can't say anything. So it's like, I can't make a comment on that. And so the right uses it as a weapon.
Yep.
That's all it is.
Like you said, just putting it out there and letting their supporters fill in the rest. They do it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And they love to do it with the FBI. Like, they love to do it with the FBI.
So, yeah. But, and again, like most people online, I don't think put those two things together. But like that questioning happened because Ted Cruz got pantsed on the Tucker Carlson show 2 nights in a row. Cool. And he had to get some of his cred back on the right. And the whole reason that he, like, it's all fucking feeds into everything else, because the entire reason that Ted Cruz even comes out to say that January 6th was a terrorist attack is to get the responsibility that he has for January 6th off of him much as possible.
Get this shit off of me. Oh, now I gotta go and apologize to Tucker. All right, fucking yes, my lord. And then he goes back and he's like, the FBI did it. Really, the FBI did it? You sure? It's weird. You sure it's the FBI? Because it doesn't seem like the FBI. Was it the FBI like who had the Trump cape, got shot in the neck? Was the FBI that did that? Weird.
Yeah.
Interesting. The amount of like benefit of the doubt that we give to white conservatives in this country is baffling to me. It's baffling. Like we just give them the benefit of the doubt all the time. Surely Ted Cruz is being honest. No, he's not. He's not being honest. He knows that what he's saying gives an ability to fill in the bullshit. He knows that. And again, he's not dumb. He's not like some fucking moron arguing with Dr. Fauci, right? Like this guy's smart. So,
imagine how much cooler government could be if one entire party in this country didn't treat electoral politics as a zero-sum game with power as the only thing on the line.
As the only goal. Yeah. Imagine. Or like they still exist, but imagine if 50% of this country actually paid attention and voted.
That too.
Imagine that. Shit. Imagine if 20% of this country voted. 20% more of this country voted.
I mean, I don't think that would change much because, as the old adage goes, a person is smart, but people are stupid. Like it doesn't, even if you got 20% more, you just have 20% more idiots fucking voting for dumb politicians. So,
well, that's
true. You need better politicians.
Yeah, you do, and you need a more informed electorate. That's just a fact. The other thing that I found to be super interesting is the response to all of this, specifically from folks on the super far left, your Glenn Greenwalds, your crystal balls, if you will. That's her real name.
Which is insane.
Like, your parents are wild hippies. Like, this is crazy. It's funny though. It's a funny name. It's catchy. It's too bad you're a nutcase. Because if you weren't a nutcase, it'd be super cool. Glenn Greenwald says, hate Ted Cruz all you want, but these questions about the FBI's role in January 6th are vital because it's what the FBI did in the first war on terror with the Whitmer case, but also because there is ample evidence that they did it here. The media's indifference is shameful. And then Crystal Ball backs him up and says, if you want accountability for January 6th, you should care deeply about what sort of insight and active presence the feds had. New York Times already reported on the presence of at least one informant. I suppose that's the person they're talking about, but that doesn't seem to be definitive. You don't have to go down the rabbit hole of false flag conspiracies to want answers here. And then there was a bunch of people making comments, which I found to be racially very offensive, saying that this is, look, the FBI did a lot of terrible things to the Black Panthers. You know, they're capable of doing stuff like this. Yeah. And then they listed a bunch of other left-wing groups that the FBI has definitely done terrible things to. Go ahead and name some right-wing ones they've done it to. I'll wait. They don't exist. Because these groups that they went after were trying to upend conservative fucking strongholds, right? They've never done it. The FBI and the CIA have gone, or the CIA has gone around the world helping topple administrations all over the world, South America, hello, right? Any of them conservative? Any of them the real conservative ones? What about in Iran? Was it a big conservative administration they got rid of to put the shine? Conservative? Sure. Name one. Name a conservative group that they went after. They don't. Don't.
Here's really all you need to know. The Department of Justice literally this week put together a division that specifically focused on domestic terrorism.
Just now.
Whereas right-wing domestic terrorism has been generously, firmly a part of our modern America since Ruby Ridge. And really, I'm willing to take it back to the KKK. Like honestly, that's
yeah. I mean, they got a civil rights division, which probably like sort of deals with that. But yeah, in the modern era, you could say Ruby Ridge.
Yeah,
Ruby Ridge, Timothy McVeigh. Like, incidentally, all of them are connected, right?
That was early '90s, and that's been going on. Right. And it's not like there hasn't been, extreme right wing terror cells operating in this country since then. Right. They've absolutely existed. They just haven't done anything about it.